And originally when I went back up into WWF, and I wasn't real keen on it, but there again, Andre had asked me to come in. I think if you remember, just before we did the Demolition, we went in as the Strong Machines. Andre was getting ready to make the movie Princess Bride, and he wanted to come back. And we had done that character just as a lark in Japan, because the Machine was a heel team, and they had left and jumped to Baba's group from Inoki. So they wanted to sort of put a roadblock in their success over there. So we would challenge him. And Andre wanted me to come in because I wasn't really interested in going back into New York, to be honest with you. I was going to come back and just do Georgia and Japan. So I went back up as a favor to him. And that morphed into when Andre took the movie, we had to figure out something to do. They brought Mulligan in. But we already knew that wasn't, it was a short-term gimmick. So they had approached us with the Demolition character. And Barry wasn't in the picture at that time, Smash. So they had approached me with a couple other people, and I just thought that it wouldn't work with the guys that they suggested, not because of their talent. People already knew their identity. The thing that they didn't know from me, some of them would guess, they had no facial recognition. Up to that time, I always had the mask on. And they didn't really know who I was. But if I would have taken one of the partners they suggested, and we did it for 2 matches with Randy Colley, I remember he was the Moondog, but he was recognizable. So I had told Vince, I said, this is a good gimmick, it's going to work, but it's not going to work if people recognize it. You just can't redo a guy that's been there for 3 or 4 years as their champions and put him under another character and paint his face. And Randy was nice enough to step aside, so they gave me the option of selecting a partner. And a couple of guys that they suggested, I said, you just retread the whole same thing I just told you. So I met with Barry in a restaurant in Charlotte, and we hit it off. I knew of him. I didn't know him, but I knew of him. And then I called the office and said, I found the guy. I think it'll work out. And there we were.
Yeah, and the rest, they say, is history, and it was so different compared to the other acts of the day. Acts of the day, because the face paint, the gear, the masks, the music, you really stood out. What did you think about how much you guys differed from what the rest of the tag team scene looked like?
Well, when I envisioned what it would do, I knew it was going to work. We just had to have the right format. At first, they gave us Jimmy Valiant, and that wasn't going to work. Not anything against Jimmy, but Jimmy's a cartoon character. We'd be doing a serious interview, and he'd come out of left field with some, harebrained joke or something. And you just don't, you don't have that persona that the Demolition had, the heavy metal, the spikes and all this, and have a cartoon guy as your manager. The guy that we looked around and saw was, we got to find somebody as vicious as us, and there was Fuji. So we approached Vince, and he said, yeah, we'll do that. So we let Jimmy go and got Fuji, and Fuji was well known enough as a devious manager, but the main thing about Fuji, he wasn't concerned about getting Fuji over. He was more concerned about getting Demolition over. And that's a main factor, too. If the manager's trying to get over and the team's trying to get over, there's only enough eyeballs to watch one or two. You can't watch both. So Fuji would step back, and then consequently, when he did something, it looked even more devious because people thought he's been planning that the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. So such a perfect pairing with Mr. Fuji as the devious one on the outside, and when that cane went up, you knew there was going to be some business on the other end of it. But another thing that, like I had mentioned, that really stands out is the theme music. And here we are, almost 30 years later, coming off that theme song being released, and it's still one of the most iconic wrestling themes that has ever been penned. But looking back, I mean, did you like it from the get-go? Was that your kind of music? Was Rick Derringer,
Oh, yeah.
Bill Eadie's cup of tea?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because we just did an autograph signing in Indianapolis, out near Indianapolis, Indiana, last week for 2 days, and Jimmy Hart was with us. So he was going, and we were reminiscing about the old days. And, you know, Jimmy wrote that. Rick Derringer sang it, but Jimmy Hart wrote that. And he gave us a rough demo tape one night. I believe it was in the Madison Square Gardens. He says, hey, guys, I want you to listen to this. We're working on something for you. And we loved it when we first heard it. And then they cleaned it up a little bit and, you know, brought in some more instrumentals. But I think it matched our character